Hello everyone, welcome to BetterTech. So today we have Tolga with us. Tolga, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks for asking. So Tolga, before we before we dive into the topic further, can you briefly tell us something about yourself?
Sure. Yeah. My background is in software engineering, and I built a couple companies over time. This is my third journey now, building a startup. Last two were a great run. I really enjoy the intersection of kind of tech and business. And as a fun little personal fact, I fly planes as a hobby.
Oh, that's great. So,
Yeah.
before this company that you are working right now, what your journey have been? You have like founded other companies or you were like
Yeah.
working somewhere. Can you talk about it?
So in my mid 20s, I was working somewhere and not really enjoying the environment I was working in or the product I was working on. And so me and a colleague, just kind of, single, no kids in our 20s, decided, you know what, we're gonna leave with no plan. And so we left our high
Hmm.
paying tech jobs and went and said, we're gonna just do some consulting till we figure it out. And built a company that did sort of software engineering, helped companies build SaaS products. And then a few years later, kind of stumbled into the cloud and realized, oh wow, the real opportunity here is to be the people who are helping customers adopt the cloud in a native way. So not just
Hmm.
kind of lift and shift a bunch of stuff in, but let's actually embrace the cloud for what it is. Let's understand what ephemeral means. Let's understand how to build applications that were designed from day one for the cloud. And so we
Hmm.
did quite a bit of that work starting in 2013, um, and really grew a large business out of that. Got
Oh,
acquired by a private equity firm that then put us together with another private equity or another PE backed company. They just grew and grew. Then had an eventual exit and sold that to Rackspace.
okay. All right, all right. So how the journey have been so far? You were working somewhere, then you started doing your own stuff. How do you compare the two?
Oh my gosh! So the benefit of working in tech somewhere bigger is that you get to work on probably the stuff you love working on, right? You've picked a job that's exactly the skill set and the interest area that you have. When you go to start a company, your job is actually all the jobs that is not anyone else's job. And so,
Hmm.
we literally started with like two folks in a sublet office somewhere. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't glamorous. It was I had to go to Costco to buy office snacks, that kind of thing. So,
Hmm.
there's just so much distraction from the core thing you love to do. And so, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to also want to build a business. You have to want to deal with hiring, and sort of building teams and managing output and managing operations, right? And so I would say that my job went from being 100% technical to like 25% technical. Now, the nice part is I got to pick and choose the technical parts, and I would pick what I was most interested in. But still, more than three-quarters of my time was probably not writing code; it was building a business.
Hmm. So from a technical perspective, the areas that interested you the most were in the field of AI or machine learning or computer vision, or there were other areas too.
Well, in the last journey, in my prior business, it was all about cloud. I really was into how to
Hmm.
do that the right way. But starting about 2 years ago, when I started Kibsi, my current project, yeah, we shifted to sort of a platform based approach for computer vision, and so really been
Hmm.
interesting to see how we can apply the latest innovations in AI to the space. And really, what I'd consider what we're doing is kind of applied AI. So rather than doing research into the next technique, our role in the world is how do we take all that great work that's been done and make it accessible to enterprise customers that want to adopt this tech. So a bit of a
Sure.
different approach than saying a purely sort of research oriented role would be.
Hmm. So, since you have been in AI, you have touched upon computer vision as well. You have to, work with cloud too. How you have witnessed the evolution? How you have seen all these domains gearing up and moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, man, they have moved fast, right? So I think if we think about the last time or the first time in my career that there was one of these big evolutions was in the 2000s with the kind of the dot-com evolution, right? Late 90s, early 2000s. That was my first experience. And since then, I've seen it a couple more times. We saw it in, I would say, 2015 through 2020 with cloud, right? And that one was even almost felt bigger, at least for me, because I was in the middle of it. And then we're seeing it now with AI. And what's really happened is in the last couple of years, AI has entered the mainstream consciousness. So folks now understand it. They talk about it. They see how Tesla can make cars drive themselves, and they want to know, how do I apply that same concept in my business to automate processes or
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
reduce overhead. And so I think it's in the mainstream consciousness, and there's really nothing that's done more to accomplish that than like the OpenAI stuff, right? Like Chat GPT,
Yeah.
even though it's not relevant to the kind of to the work I'm doing today, man, has it made people aware of the power and potential.
Yeah. So essentially, I mean, if we talk about it, then you also mentioned that in your current venture, you are helping enterprises like embrace these new technologies. But most enterprises, I mean, they are very stringent in their processes. They have sort of, I mean, red tape sort of boundaries and everything. But cloud, AI, openness, these are sort of relatively new stuff to them, to which they are adapting. So how you have seen that? I mean, in terms of like business across various industries, how do you think those are helping and how enterprises are embracing it based on your experience of working with similar clients?
Yeah, so you're right. The enterprise customers, they're cautious, they're conservative. But what we have seen is that when you're in a bleeding edge space, like we are, so today in the past with cloud and today with AI, um, there's actually more tolerance for taking a chance, taking a risk. And actually, as
Mm-hmm.
a startup, kind of a venture-backed startup, enterprise customers know exactly what they're getting into, right? When they engage with us, they say, "Hey, this is an experiment. We're going to try it. We're going to contain it to a small part of our business. We're going to see if it works the way we want. This is our way of dipping our toe in the water." And so I think in a lot of ways, when you're bringing something brand new to the enterprise, you have an easier shot than when you're trying to displace something. If you displace something they're already doing, then that's very risky for them to bring in
Mm-hmm.
the new tech. But if you're like, hey, you're not doing this at all, you've never done this before, let me help you do it. We have found that it takes patience and it takes education and it takes a
Mm-hmm.
certain approach, but enterprise customers want to be adopting this technology. They don't want to be the last enterprise to bring AI into their business, right? And so I think we see the appetite there to work together.
So what are some of the real world applications that you have seen in the field of AI or cloud native architectures? I mean, there were sort of real problems being solved. Like in many cases, we sort of say that people just develop applications for the sake of developing those, or I mean, they just do it to I mean, get get themselves into uh, an aura where they call themselves as engineering mavericks or I mean creating engineering marvel. So, but it does not have any practical application. So, what do you say about that?
Yeah, look, I think computer vision certainly has real world applications. And I think what we're seeing customers use it for is primarily to help augment processes, right? So let's say you're a manufacturer, you're producing some widget, and there's a known deficiency in your manufacturing process where things jam
Mm-hmm.
up or the line stops or something goes wrong with the process. Can we use cameras to measure how often that's happening? Can we use cameras to see where in our process those problems are? Can we develop metrics around them? Can we get better at that? And so we're seeing a lot of process monitoring. We're seeing customers with logistics use cases like reading labels as they come through or loading trucks. Did that truck get loaded properly? Did the right product go onto the right truck? Those kinds of things. And so in manufacturing environments, in distribution environments, we see lots of use cases. And then in retail and sort of, let's call it places where the general public would be, right? Everything from malls to sports parks to theme parks. In those environments, you see lots of people behavior. So where do people spend time? Who do they interact with? Is there a difference between morning and night? Those kinds of things. Can we move this shelf over 3 feet that way? Does that make a difference? That kind of thing. So I think
Mm-hmm.
the reality is that people have cameras aimed at parts of their business that are interesting. That's why the camera's there. But they don't get any value from that camera, right? The camera is just recording and then throwing away footage. And so if we could give them real value from that camera daily, I think the opportunity is big, and I think we see people picking those up pretty quick.
So talking about Kipsi, can you tell us a bit more about that, what it is, how it's helping customers, how low code is going to be the future, and what your thoughts are about it?
Yeah. So Kibsi is trying to bring the power of that computer vision technology to an average user, right? And so what I mean here is if you want to take computer vision today and use it for a use case in your factory, you can definitely do that by assembling all the componentry, right? You can go find the models you need. You can write a bunch of Python to ingest from your camera. You could find a sample online to copy from. But at the end of the day, you're going to do a lot of kind of undifferentiated work just to get the model to like consume video feeds from your cameras and to produce data on the other side. And then what do you do with that data? So the role of Kipsi is to bring all that into a low code environment where you could say, okay, here's a model I want to use. And we've got a bunch in our library, or customers can bring their own. So here's a model I want to use. I want to detect, let's say, people. And then I also want to detect, let's say, pencils. And I want to know when a person's holding a pencil in my very simplistic use case. So in Kibsi, you can bring the pencil model and the person model together and develop a relationship that says, hey, if the person and pencil are interacting, that's a relationship I want to know about. And I want to reflect that in my data. And so now what you've built is kind of the composite output of two models into this kind of data stream you're getting. And you've not had to solve for how do I stream from the camera, as how do I run these models in real time? How do I correlate things like pencil and person, if that's what's interesting to me? And how do I get that data and output it somewhere, store it somewhere that I can then do the kind of queries I want to do against it, or that I can then trigger my events and actions against. And so we are trying to take all that undifferentiated work, make it low code, and then provide you with hundreds of built-in models. So for many use cases, you
Mm.
don't even need a model. And then give you the option if you need a custom model, because you've got a custom component in your process, to just add that one model. But now that one model gets to benefit from the kind of permutations you're getting out of this whole system.
So, so that's very interesting, making it accessible for people and making it easier for them. But since your experience is mostly, I mean, before Kipsi was in cloud native architecture, how did you end up intersecting both
Hmm.
of these? Like, I mean, AI and ML is your latest computer vision, latest venture, your expertise in cloud native architectures. Where did the intersection happen?
Yeah, so my focus in the cloud native world was building like SaaS applications in a cloud native way, right? So we weren't just doing infrastructure, we were helping customers build in the cloud. And so if you think about what Kibsi is, it's a combination of that building in the cloud and AI. So when I was ready to leave the world of consulting and services and say, hey, I want to build a product, it was really natural that it was going to be some kind of cloud powered SaaS product. That's what I've been building, for people. And the question became, in what space do I want to build a product? And
Hmm.
I really believe, based on what I saw in my past consulting life, that people are not able to effectively adopt AI. And so it was the combination of the interest in helping folks adopt AI and my background in building kind of platform and SaaS solutions that really brought the two together. And you're right, like my background is not AI, and as a business leader, we can hire folks that are great at AI. What I bring to it is the expertise in building these kind of platform solutions that are adoptable and scalable by lots of enterprises.
Yeah, you just touched upon an important topic of adaptation. Now, AI is getting adapted at a very rapid speed these days, right? People are basically embracing it with open arms,
Mm-hmm.
which actually will bring sooner or later issues related to ethics or morality or its
Yeah.
usage. So, how do you think the AI adaptation is going to cater to these things?
Yeah. So, I mean, gosh, nowhere is AI ethics more concerning than in computer vision, right? Because now you've got video feeds of probably of people.
Yeah.
So we're in like the worst part of that space. The approach that we have taken is that for the use cases that I think are the most valuable, which are, these kind of behavioral, hey, what are people doing? Or, hey, is my process working? You don't need to know who the person is. It's just not important,
Okay.
right? So what we've done is we've actually avoided identifying people. We might detect that it is a person and we might track that person as they walk or move around the space. We don't know who it is. And we've just decided that as a platform, identifying people is not a priority. And so far, our customers have really appreciated that approach because
Okay.
you avoid the ugliest parts of the privacy concerns. Now, look, after that, the big brothery kind of stuff, right? What you imagine, kind of Minority Report kind of stuff. There are others doing that, and it is certainly here and now. um, I, I think, and you know what's worse is it's a hodgepodge of like regulatory frameworks as well. So you've got some rules in California, you've got some rules in Europe, you've got other states with no rules. So it's really a mess. I do think we need to, as an industry, come up with a kind of self-regulation framework. You know, like as a kind of bad example, when we did the payment card industry stuff, the PCI stuff back 20 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
right? Kind of came up
Yeah.
with industry framework. We didn't wait for regulators to do it. I think we need an industry framework here for tech companies to self-regulate the privacy considerations of these technologies.
So, I mean, and where do you see the future? Like computer vision, AI, machine learning, cloud, their intersection, their usage with other related technologies. Where do you see these technologies going in the future?
And I think we have really crossed the chasm on this one. So I think if you'd asked me the same question 2 years ago when we started Kibsi, I would have said, I'm not sure. I think we're really early. I think time will tell. I think in those same 2 years while we were building Kibsi, just as we look at what happened all around us, and the journey we were a part of as well, I think the entire world has kind of crossed the chasm, and AI is here now. It's real now, and the investments in it are very real. So you look at all the big tech companies, every new feature they're adding to their devices, right? It's all AI powered. It's all the amount of time spent in keynotes from Apple and Google talking about AI, or Meta, is unbelievable. And so I think the future of this is even a more rapid evolution of this technology. I think particularly in the NLP space, particularly in like the large language models and the kind of chat bot and knowledge powered pieces of AI, but also it's spilling over into computer vision and other types of AI as well. And so I think what we're going to see in the next 5 years is probably a doubling of the capabilities we have today, right? It took us like 30 years to build the level of AI capability we have now, right? This research, the modern research in this goes back at least to the early 2000s. And I think it's going to take only a couple more years to like increment to infinitely, to double, triple the capabilities we're seeing today. So I'm really interested to look back in 5 years and think about how primitive the AI was today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's amazing. So, I mean, how do you think that the younger generation or the younger lot keep themselves updated and ahead of the curve with all these technologies which are going to make an impact in the future?
Yeah, this is tough, right? AI is perhaps one of the hardest fields to get into as a young engineer because it is very academic. And the problem is what you learn at academic level and then what you need to apply that academic learning are pretty far apart. And as a
Mm-hmm.
as a company having to recruit and get team members who have both sets of background, we see just how hard it is to find the combination of practical experience and academic background. And so my one advice to somebody would be, look, if you're going to study AI, by all means, you need to probably go to school and study AI. But you can't imagine how valuable the practical hands-on software engineering disciplines are. And so I would say go to
Mm-hmm.
school for AI and get a job that's not AI, that's just software engineering while you do that. Because when those two things come together, when you can bring the academic knowledge of the latest AI techniques with actual experience, hands-on coding experience,
Mm.
that's when you've made yourself into an invaluable resource in this for the AI.
Right. So, in the end, I mean, what would you like to say on like a closing note about, I mean, you talked about the future, but what's ahead for Kipsy? What's ahead for you in general with your journey?
Yeah, for us, we are rapidly engaging with more and more enterprise customers, and we're trying to test the limits of kind of how far can we take this low code drag and drop approach to computer vision. So I'm really excited every day when we run into a new use case that we can build on our platform that we never thought of when we started. Right, that's the ultimate kind of test case for us. Um, as in general, as a closing thought, I think to business leaders, my advice would be it's not really a question of like, will you adopt AI? Because you will ultimately be forced to adopt AI. It's will you be the first or the last in your peer group to adopt AI? And what does that mean for your business? Right. And so I think every business leader now should be thinking about useful ways. I'm not talking about science experiments. I'm not talking about AI for AI's sake, but there are useful ways to adopt this tech in every business. And I think everyone should be looking at their next 5 years and figure out what their plan is.
So, Tolga, in the end, thank you very much for your time today. It was really an insightful and a very detail-oriented conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I look forward to hosting you again in another upcoming session at BetterTech.
Thank you. It was a great time. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.